right. Hi, everyone. This is Trainer Brandi with United Canine Academy San Marcos. And with me, I have Dr. Ashley Opyt, who is a veterinarian with Firehouse Animal Center in Kyle, Texas.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time out and just letting me interview you and pick your brain a little bit. So we're
Absolutely.
going to jump right into this. February is National Prevent a Litter Month. Now, as a veterinarian, what exactly does that mean to you, Prevent a Litter Month?
Yeah, National Prevent a Litter Month is a time to spread awareness about spaying and neutering pets and encouraging pet owners to spay and neuter. The timing of February is actually really interesting because we consider that kitten season. In particular, cats tend to be having babies around this time, so it's a good month to spread awareness.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to preventing a litter, typically we're talking about spaying and neutering your dog, your cat, whatever animal you might have. Typically it's dogs and cats. They're the most common. Are there any cons or positives to leaving a dog or a cat intact or unfixed?
That's a really good question. There are definitely a lot more cons and pros when it comes to leaving them intact. I guess I'll start with the pros. The pros of leaving them intact, there are some studies on certain breeds of dogs that show that leaving them intact for a little bit longer until they're about a year or two old can help prevent some orthopedic problems. There are also studies on some very, very select breeds that show that leaving them intact a little longer may prevent certain types of cancers. But those studies are really limited to really specific breeds. So definitely something to discuss with your veterinarian about whether your dog would benefit or get either of those benefits. As far as cons, we do see a lot of increased behavior issues in pets that are left intact, whether that's spraying or marking in the house, running away, or aggression. So we do worry about those. There's also increased risks of cancer, of certain types of cancers when they're intact, like testicular cancer or breast cancer in female dogs and cats. We also really worry about uterine infections for female animals. Humans don't really get that as much, so we're not as aware of it, but dogs and cats are very prone to getting uterine infections, and dogs, actually 20% of dogs will get uterine infections by 10 years of age if they're left unspayed. Those are really serious. They come on really quickly. They're very life-threatening, and they're really expensive and difficult to fix once they come up. So that's a big one for us. And then, of course, unwanted litters. Having litters is expensive and time-consuming for pet owners, and also contributes to pet overpopulation, of course.
Yeah, I've definitely seen those issues. And we see a lot of stray cats running around just because, oops, unwanted litter, and now we've got kittens loose. So, okay, so let's say a dog or a cat does go ahead, they get fixed, they get spayed, they get neutered. What changes do owners typically tend to see when their animal gets spayed or neutered?
Honestly, generally don't see much. If you're going to spay and neuter them before they develop those spraying and marking behaviors, the running away to try to go find a friend, you're going to just prevent those behaviors. So you're not necessarily going to see a change. You're just going to see an animal that's an easier, happier pet. You can see weight gain with spaying and neutering. That does, spaying and neutering does decrease their metabolism by about 20%. So generally after they're fixed, we do recommend decreasing how much they're fed by about 10 or 20% to compensate for that. Many people really are worried about the weight gain, and I understand that because it is a health problem to be overweight, but it's easy to manage that and keep it from happening. But really, I wouldn't expect much change in your pet's behavior by getting them fixed, other than those positive things of not running away and not marking.
I mean, we all like to keep our dogs close, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what are the best ages to have a dog and a cat fixed?
That's a really good question. For cats, it's pretty straightforward. Fix them by 5 months of age. So there's a new initiative called Feline Fix by 5. They actually have a website if anyone is curious, it's felinefixby5.org. So they've done studies showing that cats have significantly decreased risk of behavior issues if they're fixed by 5 months old. And there are not any studies in cats showing any benefit to leaving them intact longer than that. So by 5 months for cats, typically it's in that 3 to 5 month range. For dogs, like we talked about, there are varying recommendations based on breed, based on owner kind of situation or lifestyle. So that's definitely something you want to talk to your veterinarian about to get a specific plan. It's generally between 6 and 18 months of age. We generally don't want to leave them intact past 18 months of age. And we generally, if there's no breed specific studies suggesting waiting is a good idea, we generally do it around 6 months. Just the earlier, the better.
Okay. Kind of a follow-up on that. Is there any difference between male versus females in age?
That's I'm glad you asked. There definitely is. So male dogs, there's less downsides to leaving them intact a little bit longer. So some of the recommendations maybe for, a female Labrador, you would fix them sooner than a male Labrador. So those recommendations do vary based male versus female. Female dogs, the more heat cycles they go through, the more risk they are for mammary cancer, for those uterine infections. So we take spaying them a little bit more seriously and try to do it as soon as we can.
Makes perfect sense. So how exactly does each procedure work? I know a little bit from the dog side, having been in dog training for a really long time at this point. Is it similar between the two species as to how you go about getting them fixed? And in that, what are the risks to the animals, or the potential risks to the animals, to getting the surgery done?
Yeah, between species, it's honestly really similar for both cats and dogs. For female dogs and cats, you're gonna remove the ovaries and uterus, and then for male dogs and cats, you're gonna remove the testicles. So it's very similar. There's some anatomical differences there, but very similar. And for all pets, it's gonna be typically a day procedure where you drop them off in the morning, they have their procedure during the day, and then go home that evening. Risk-wise, luckily, with the anesthetic medications and monitoring equipment we have these days, anesthesia itself poses a really small risk. Less than 0.1% of healthy young animals have any complications with anesthesia. And then the surgery itself is really well tolerated. The risks are excessive bleeding, infection, or opening up of the incisions. Those are really uncommon, and especially opening of the incision and infection are pretty easily prevented as long as we follow the post-op care instructions. So they do need to rest for 2 weeks, no running, jumping, dog parks for 2 weeks. And they typically have a cone of shame or some other device to keep them from looking at their incisions for 2 weeks. But as long as we do those things, the risks are really, really uncommon.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I know when my boy got his neuter surgery done, he'd walk around with a cone of shame, and he'd walk into us, and he'd walk into walls. So it was pitiful to watch. It really was.
It's a long 2 weeks, but it's over.
So my question, I know that you guys do occasionally see what's termed exotic animals. So do y'all occasionally see like reptiles? I mean, I know y'all see birds. And when you do see those exotic animals, have you ever performed like a spay or neuter surgery on those animals? And if you have, what were the benefits, or what were some of the reasons why you performed those surgeries?
So we have in rabbits and rats. We've spayed and neutered rabbits, and we have neutered some rats. The benefits are actually, for those species, are really similar to cats and dogs. We're typically doing those procedures to reduce unwanted behaviors, especially aggression, and also to keep them from having litters. So for those species, it's about the same. We do see birds and reptiles and things. We don't typically spay and neuter those animals, although those things can be done if they have egg laying disorders or other medical issues like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I know you guys see a lot of really interesting animals there. So,
We do. Like,
okay. So I get this question, I get this particular answer whenever I sometimes prescribe getting an animal fix.
mhm.
What do you typically say to an owner that says, I don't want to fix my dog, my cat, whatever, just right now because I want just one litter from them first because they're just so pretty and beautiful and I want one of their puppies. What do you typically say to those owners?
Yes, and I totally get it. I wish I could have a clone of my little corgi for sure. But what I say is that just to strongly consider how much work it is. It's a lot of work to take care of baby puppies. Mom doesn't do it all. Also, strongly consider costs. An emergency C-section can easily be $2,000 to $3,000. And those are things that dogs commonly need. They're just like us. They can't always give birth naturally. So strongly consider how much time it's going to take and the cost. And I also say consider the risk to your pet. Just like in people, there can be major complications with giving birth. And, really, we want our pet to enjoy our pet. We don't want to put them at risk for any medical issues.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you would like pet owners to be aware of, just with regards to fixing their pets, especially in the month of prevent a litter?
The biggest thing is just don't be afraid to discuss spaying and neutering with your veterinarian. Don't feel intimidated or like we, aren't happy to answer questions. A lot of people have concerns about the risks. A lot of people have concerns about how the procedure works, when to get it done, the cost of the procedure. Come in and talk with us about it because we are really happy to explain everything. We're also really happy to make sure that there's no cost barriers there, even if we're not able to spay and neuter a pet for a price that you can afford in a regular vet clinic. There are a lot of voucher programs out there. There are a lot of low cost spay and neuter clinics that are funded by donations. So we have a lot of resources to make sure that your pet can get the care that they need. That's our number one goal. So don't be afraid to ask your vet.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much, Dr. Opyt, for taking this time and just answering these questions for us. We really appreciate it. I know the dog owners and cat owners out there really appreciate your help too. So really just thank you.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you helping get the word out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, if anyone has any questions, feel free. You can always email me, admin@unitedcanineacademysanmarcos.com. You can always reach out to your local vet. If you don't want to reach out to your local vet, I'm sure that Dr. Opyt and her team would gladly take your phone call and answer any questions you might have.
Absolutely. Give us a call anytime.
All right. Well, that's it for our spay and neuter your animal month. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thanks once again for joining us at United Canine Academy and Firehouse Animal Center. Thank you for your help. We really appreciate it.